In the closing moments of Alien 3, Lieutenant Ellen Ripley is faced with the greatest dilemma of her ongoing battle against the Xenomorph when confronted by Bishop 2, who is acting as a friendly face on behalf of Weyland-Yutani. She could put her trust into the company to remove the alien queen embryo from inside her and have a chance to live despite all of her suspicions about their intentions with the specimen. Or she could guarantee the alien queen is destroyed, but in doing so, having to make the ultimate sacrifice in destroying herself as well. We all know how this turns out. Ripley chooses not to trust the word of Bishop 2, and makes her sacrifice, marking the end of her struggle against the insidious space beast, and ultimately cutting off the company's last chance at acquiring the specimen, effectively saving the universe. But what if she chose differently? What if she was swayed by the promises of the company to remove and destroy the alien? How would this affect her own fate and the fate of the universe she had been trying so desperately to save? For this What If video, I'll be taking a look at different possible scenarios that may have taken place if Ripley decided to hand her trust over to Bishop 2 and the company. These hypotheticals are drawn from what we see in the film, both the theatrical and assembly cut versions, and other Alien 3 related media, as well as generally the best possible guesses as to what outcomes may have played out. The first factor to consider is the timing of the birth of the Queen Chestburster, which varies depending on the version of Alien 3 you may be watching. In the theatrical version, the time that surpasses from when Ripley rejects Bishop 2's offer to moving to the crane over the furnace, falling in, and finally suffering the horrible fate of the alien birth is a total of 1 minute and 40 seconds. This is a very short window of time, technically even shorter if you want to take into account that for obvious dramatic effect, Ripley's fall is shown in slow motion. Compare this to the timing it takes from when we first see the company making its way to the facility during the bait and chase with the prisoners and the Xenomorph, to when, after Ripley successfully kills the Xenomorph, Bishop 2 and the Weyland-Yutani commandos finally show up in the leadworks to confront Ripley. Approximately 10 minutes and 30 seconds go by. Even taking some time off of that to account for a very brief conversation with Aaron, who was waiting by the entrance to meet them and lead them to the furnace. Even working on the assumption that once Ripley joined them, they would really haul ass back to the ship, the timing just wouldn't work out to save Ripley. We might be able to add a little bit of flexibility to the timing and argue that the alien only burst out of Ripley when it did because somehow it sensed danger, and it birthed at that moment as a last-ditch effort for self-preservation. But that speculation aside, there's just no way Ripley would have been able to make it to the ship and its surgical base with enough time to undergo whatever operation they had in mind. If any was in mind at all, if such a surgical base even existed, but more on that momentarily. This particular scenario would be the bleakest for Ripley. She would have come along with the company against her better judgment, and she would have died anyway. Worst of all, her death would be for nothing, and this would practically hand over the opportunity to Weyland-Yutani to attain their specimen, but probably not with the greatest of ease. With all of the Weyland-Yutani commandos on the ready, with all the equipment they had with them, including a pretty useless cage and some questionable animal control poles, they likely wouldn't be prepared to capture the newly born Xenomorph. It would burst from Ripley's chest and quickly make an escape to the deepest, darkest corners of the prison. This would lead to a desperate search for the specimen, but surely one executed in vain, as if there's one thing the Xenomorph is perfectly adept at doing, it's hiding. The amount of Weyland-Yutani commandos presently on the planet wouldn't be sufficient in carrying out this operation, and likely Bishop 2 would call for a reinforcement, giving the new queen ample time to wait and grow and lay eggs. As this unfolds, Weyland-Yutani commandos would either stumble upon the eggs, or perhaps even eggs would hatch on their own and pursue the potential prey within the facility and begin taking hosts. And once again, they're woefully underprepared, and if a facehugger could get through Kane's space helmet with ease, then surely the commando's face gear wouldn't protect them either. The situation would very quickly get out of control. Within a matter of days, Fury 161 would be the home to a new Xenomorph hive. Any plans the company had at capturing a specimen and bringing it to whichever location they intended would have to be reevaluated at this point. They would have to adapt to these new developments, and a likely scenario would be that they would have no choice but to adapt the Fury 161 prison into their own research facility. The prison is their property anyway. As we learn at the end of the film, they wound up selling its resources for scrap, and with the custodial staff terminated, they could do whatever they wished with the site. With their funding, with their resources, it would be a smooth enough transition to make. Eventually, they could get the site under control. They could move forward with their original plans. They'd have ownership over the specimen and all that comes with it, and at least for some time may make some progress. But catastrophe and the complete annihilation of Earth would always be one bad mistake away. Timing is everything, and that's the possible outcome of what the unfortunate timing of Ripley's chestburster being born on the prison planet could lead to. The timing that assumes the Queen was ready to burst mere minutes after Ripley speaks with Bishop 2. This would be according to the timing we know from the theatrical version, though you may note, in the assembly cut, things are a little different. Ripley still rejects the offer from the company and still falls to her death, but in this version, there's no chest bursting. This leaves any amount of time open for anything to happen, and without the foresight of knowing exactly when the monster was to come out of her, then maybe she would have enough time to save herself. Siding with Bishop 2, being led back to the ship, the Patna, undergoing the surgery, maybe she would actually have ample time for all of it. The concern then wouldn't be about the timing, it would be about Bishop 2's true intentions. Is he telling her the truth? Is he manipulating by mixing in some lies and some truths? How much of what he's telling her, as he pleads for her cooperation, is the actual truth, and how much is just telling her what she wants to hear in order to convince her? Bishop 2 calmly and assuredly lays down what the company's supposed intentions are: to bring Ripley to the ship, surgically remove the alien, and kill it. In the assembly cut version, there's an added moment of one of the company's scientists briefly outlining the procedure to assure her further. There's even more to be found within the shooting script and the subsequently adapted novelization of the film from Alan Dean Foster, which is worth looking at. Here's how the conversation plays out in the novel version. Ripley spotted the company men coming up the stairs from below, heading for the crane. Acheron was in the forefront. She tried to escape but had no place to go. "Don't come any closer," she shouted. "Stay where you are." Acheron halted. "Wait, they're here to help." She stared at him, pitying the poor simpleton. He had no idea what the stakes were, or what was likely to happen to him when the company obtained what it was after. Except that was not going to happen. Another wave of nausea swept over her, and she staggered against the railing. As she straightened, a figure stepped out from behind the heavily armed commandos. She gaped, uncertain at first of what she was seeing. It was a face she knew. "Bishop?" she heard herself mumbling uncertainly. He stopped, the others crowding close behind him, waiting for orders. The figure indicated they should relax. Then he turned to her, smiling reassuringly. "I just want to help you. We're all on the same side." "No more bullshit," she snapped. Weak as she was, it took an effort to make the exclamation sound convincing. "I just felt the damn thing move." As everyone present watched, she stepped farther out on the gantry platform. Something smacked into her lungs and she winced, never taking her eyes off the figure before her. It was Bishop. No, not Bishop, but a perfect duplicate of him. A completely in control, perfect down to the pores on his chin double of the sadly dismembered and cybernetically deceased Bishop. Bishop 2, she told herself numbly. Bishop redux. Bishop to pawn 4. Bishop takes queen. Not as long as this lady's alive, she thought determinedly. "You know who I am," the figure said. "Yeah, a droid. Same model as Bishop, sent by the fucking company. I'm not the Bishop android. I designed it. I'm the prototype, so naturally I modeled its features after my own. I'm very human. I was sent here to show you a friendly face, and to demonstrate how important you are to us. To me. I've been involved with this project from the beginning. You mean a lot to me, Lieutenant Ripley. To a great many people. Please, come down. I just want to help you. We have everything here to help you, Ripley." He gazed anxiously up at her. Now she recognized the outfits 2 of Bishop 2's companions wore. They were biomedical technicians. It made her think of Clemens. "Fuck you. I know all about friendly company faces. The last one I saw belonged to an asshole named Burke." The man's smile faded. "Mr. Burke proved to be a poor choice to accompany your previous mission. An individual rather more interested in his own personal aggrandizement than in good company policy. I assure you, it was a mistake that will not be repeated. That is why I am here now, instead of some inexperienced, overly ambitious underling. And you, of course, have no personal ambitions. I only want to help you." "You're a liar," she said quietly. "You don't give a shit about me or anyone else. You just want to take it back. These things have acid for blood where you company people just have money. I don't see a lot of difference." Bishop 2 studied the floor for a moment before again raising his eyes to the solitary figure atop the crane platform. "You have plenty of reasons to be wary, but unfortunately not much time. We just want to take you home. We don't care anymore what happens to it. We know what you've been through. You've shown great courage." "Bullshit. You're wrong. We want to help." "What does that mean?" "We want to take the thing out of you." "And keep it?" Bishop 2 shook his head. "No. Destroy it." She stood, swaying, wanting to believe him. Sensing her hesitation, he hurried on. "Ripley, you're exhausted, worn out. Give yourself a moment. Stop and think. I only have your best interests at heart. The ship I came in, the Patna, is equipped with a state-of-the-art surgical facility. We can remove the fetus, or larva, or whatever you want to call it. We don't have a name for the different developmental stages yet. The operation will be successful. You're going to have a long, productive life." She looked down at him, calm now, resigned. "I've had a life, thanks. One I didn't have to ask anybody about or answer to anybody for." He held up a hand, imploring. "You're not thinking straight, Ripley. We admit we made mistakes. We didn't know. But we can make it up to you. All the potential lost, all the time. You can still have children. We'll buy out your contract. You'll get everything you deserve. We owe you." She wavered. "You're not going to take it back?" "No. We realize now what we've been up against. You've been right all along. But time is running out. Let us deal with it. The surgery on the ship is ready to go." The biotech immediately behind him stepped forward. "It's very quick, painless. A couple of incisions. You'll be out for 2 hours. That's all. Then back on your feet, good as new. Whole again. What guarantee do I have that once you've taken this thing out, you'll destroy it?" Bishop 2 advanced another step. He was quite close now, looking across at her. "You're just going to have to trust me." He extended his hand in friendship. "Trust me, please. We only want to help you." She considered, taking her time. She saw Aaron watching her, and Morse. Her gaze went back to Bishop 2. She slid shut the gate between them. "No." In this extended conversation, Bishop 2 employs even more seemingly manipulative tactics. He lets Ripley know just how right she's been, all along in trying to destroy the alien, and how wrong the company has been, but now they know better. He tries to get her to question her own ability to come to a decision at the moment, telling her she's worn out and not thinking clearly. And there's additional temptation in the offer to buy out her contract, implying she's not only going to live through the experience, but will be financially set for the rest of her life. In speculating on what would happen if Ripley agreed to his terms, we'd have to determine as best as possible what is the truth and what is a lie. First things first, is he human, as he claims to be? This has always been a popular topic of debate in regard to Alien 3. I've covered this in the past on the channel, and I believe it is still something worth questioning. However, if we go by the WEYLAND-YUTANI report, which identifies Bishop 2 as Michael Bishop, a company man who did, in fact, design the Bishop model and is, in fact, very much human, then we can take this as truth. Another question we can ask and get a fairly definitive answer to is what are the intentions with the xenomorph specimen? Bishop 2 tells Ripley they intend to destroy it. Moments later, after Ripley rejects his offer and moves the crane over the furnace, he begs Ripley to hand over the specimen. "It's the chance of a lifetime," he says, so clearly his claim about intending to kill the alien after taking it out of Ripley is a lie. An interesting note, though, this dialogue is not included in the shooting script and novelization, leaving the intention a little more ambiguous in those versions. That the company wishes to keep the specimen is obvious enough to Ripley and obvious enough to any viewer, but even if Ripley were to sway herself into believing they wanted the alien killed, and went along with the plan to remove it from her, could that actually be done? Could the alien actually be successfully removed from her body through surgery? This is another popular topic of debate, also previously discussed on the channel. Can a xenomorph embryo, be removed. If we go by claims presented in Alien's Colonial Marines, it is simply not possible. A doctor on the facility had previously made the attempts, but with no success. His findings were that the embryo will extract fluid and nutrients from the host to construct a placenta, but it's not like a human's. The placenta is like a weed, rooting itself into every organ in the chest cavity. Even if you could surgically remove the embryo, the placenta is like a cancer. Your organs will begin shutting down one by one, and just die. We have, however, seen cases in the extended universe that contradict these claims. We've seen the successful surgical removal of a chestburster in Alien's Labyrinth with the Dr. Church character. In Alien's Defiance, Dr. Hollis discovers the embryo of an alien queen inside her and is able to remove it through surgery. Even in an extended universe entry as recent as Alien's Phalanx, it's been shown that a certain chemical reaction could effectively kill and purge the alien embryo from its host. Not to mention Alien Resurrection, where Ripley does, in fact, undergo surgery and has the queen embryo removed from her 200 years later via the Auriga's cloning operation. So, for the sake of argument, we can say it's at least possible, though maybe not guaranteed, and maybe not even the intention of the company. If Ripley had agreed to come with Bishop 2 to the Patna in the hopes of undergoing a removal surgery, here are some of the possible outcomes. One scenario is that Ripley is brought to the Patna and taken to an area she believes to be the surgical base, only for no such surgery to take place. She's restrained, possibly sedated, to ease the process, and the company scientists simply wait for the alien to burst from her chest and then secure it. The alien chestburster is born, Ripley dies in the process, and the company has their specimen. There were never any intentions to even attempt a surgical removal of the embryo. The priority was to collect it. Another scenario is that a surgery is attempted on board the Patna, but such an operation was not nearly as simple as they anticipated or claimed it to be. Ripley dies during the surgery, but the alien queen is successfully removed. A similar outcome that results with Ripley's death and the acquisition of the xenomorph specimen. There could also be a scenario where the surgery does take place and is successful, with Ripley surviving the extraction but is killed anyway. Possibly in a way that makes it seem as if she died as a result of the procedure rather than an execution. Appearances, even internally, have enough worth that it would be beneficial to at least make it seem like they made every attempt to save her. This way, there's no loose ends, no worries about Ripley spreading the word of the specimen or interfering in any way. But maybe this most insidious of possibilities is not exactly what to expect from the company. After all, at the end of the film, they allowed Morse to live. If the ending of the film leaves it somewhat ambiguous, then the comic book adaptation of Alien 3 makes it clear enough that he lived through the ordeal. A closing panel outlines, Weyland-Yutani Work Correctional Facility Fury 161 is closed now. The sole survivor of the accident relocated. He has been instructed to silence and understands the penalties for silence broken. They probably could have easily killed Morse and either put the blame on the alien or made a claim that he became violent against them and had to deal with it in a similar way as Aaron, but he was allowed to live. Earlier in the film, Ripley warns the prisoners they may kill you just for having seen it, but evidently this didn't end up being the case. So it's very possible that Ripley would be allowed to live if she made the appropriate agreements. That would lead to a final possible outcome to be explored. Ripley puts her trust in Bishop 2, is taken to the surgical base, has the alien taken out of her successfully, and lives, just as promised. She'd be under observation for some time as she heals, and would soon be introduced back into society, back to a normal life. Surely after signing the necessary non-disclosure agreements with the company. Her contract would have been bought out, the company would have been grateful and compensated her financially to a point of extreme generosity. She'd be set for life, and could do whatever she wished to do. They would have told her that once the alien was removed, it was destroyed as promised, and she'd have no choice but to believe them. She'd have her strong doubts, of course, but there'd be absolutely no way to prove otherwise. Those doubts would hang over her for the rest of her life. Maybe a day would come when the company slipped up and allowed a specimen to reach Earth, leading to a disastrous global outbreak as seen in the Earth War storyline from the comics. At that point, maybe the company would reach out to Ripley for her expertise to once again be taken on as an advisor, given her experience with the creature. Or maybe not. Maybe she'd suffer the exact same fate as everyone else on Earth as it succumbs to an alien plague, all while the unbearable guilt takes over her. She could have prevented this. She chose a brief period of normal life in exchange for the fate of the entire world. But none of this would be guaranteed to happen, and such an event wouldn't necessarily happen immediately after Weyland-Yutani acquires the specimen. They could have things under control for years, for generations, and the fear of the possibility alone would intrude on Ripley's life. Maybe she would return to normal, live comfortably, start a new family, have children, live the life she always wanted and what was so unjustly taken away from her by having the bad fortune of boarding the Nostromo and encountering the alien. She had told the beast on Fury, "You've been in my life so long, I can't remember anything else." The time would come to forget, to move on. There may even be days where she'd think back on it and wonder if it was all just a dream, if it weren't for the surgical scar in her chest to remind her every day. And surely the nightmares would return. She'd do her best to deal with them, to focus on her family, but she'd know that at any moment it could all be taken away. She could live to an old age and die naturally. The life she'd left for her children and her children's children would always be in danger, all because of the choice she made. That fear and that guilt would never fully go away. If it was her destiny to sacrifice herself and destroy the alien in the process, then she would have defied that call to martyrdom for her own selfish reasons. But in choosing this path, she lost all control over her fate and the fate of the universe. Ellen Ripley never had as much power as she did in those crucial final moments in the Leadworks. It was the power to save the world, but at the ultimate price. It was a hard choice to make, but I think we can agree she made the right one. It is fun to think about the possibilities, though, if she did choose differently, and what consequences would come with it, so I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you enjoyed considering the possible outcomes along with me. But which of these outcomes do you think would be the most likely? Or do you have your own ideas of what would happen? I'd love to hear from you, so please comment below and share your thoughts. As always, I'd like to thank you very much for watching today. I really appreciate it, and if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, and you can also subscribe for all the latest videos from the channel. A very, very special thanks goes out to Weyland-Yutani executives, EmYarUk, Mark Fox, and in the Ellen Ripley tier of excellence, Lady Anne. My thanks also goes out to the Hive Queens, Ronni, Jensen, Alyssane, and Jackson roesch, all part of the Patreon Hive. If you'd like to join the Hive and support the channel, check out my Patreon page for exclusive posts and contests. In the meantime, you can catch up with Alien Theory over social media. Follow @alien_theory on Twitter and @alientheoryyt on Facebook and Instagram for more. And until next time, this is Alien Theory, signing off.